I see a few combat veterans out there, and they'll tell you, as I will, that there are no heroes in combat. We're all scared to death. But there's one thing you do learn in that funny experience, is that you don't want to see other people killed or young men sent to war if there's any feasible alternative. And I think that having a fellow like Bill in the Congress who has been shot at, has served with the Force Recon and the Marines, been decorated for gallantry, that kind of guy is going to think twice before we do what we did in Iraq, just blindly follow a president into a war that's now turned out to be a disaster financially. There's another thing that Congress didn't do for 6 years, and Lundgren was a part of that. Don wasn't a bad guy, served in the House with him, but like all other Republicans, he's become one of these ideologues who believes that you don't regulate anything. And if you look at the financial crisis we're in here, we lost the balance between free enterprise and deregulation. And if you stop any deregulation of banks and the companies in Wall Street, you have what we have today. So for a couple of reasons, to get a combat veteran who's been shot at and has been scared to death with a first-rate combat unit up in Vietnam into the Congress is one more voice that will think twice before we go to war. And secondly, the Democrats are doing for the first time what didn't happen for 6 years. They're holding committee hearings to look into how we get into these problems. You remember, for 6 years, the Republicans and Don Lundgren, no oversight hearings, no challenging of what the administration was doing or was not doing. And so I think it's a kind of a time that the pendulum has swung too far, and it ought to swing back, and we ought to get some decent people from outside the Beltway back there to Washington. The wisdom is not entirely in Washington, but these ideologues who have picked up the idea that a balanced budget doesn't really mean a balanced budget, and spending to the extent they had and deregulating everything in sight, it'd be helpful to get a guy like Bill back there. And I want to say to the lady that introduced me, if the Obama would turn loose of about $300,000 to spend in this district, we'd get Obama to, it would be the best thing Obama could do to get help next year when he tries to undo what has happened over the last 7 years.